Guys, thank you for joining the panel discussion. We have to wait for 2 minutes more. Then we will start. Okay, yes, so we can start now.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, thanks. So, welcome everyone. My name is Yash and I am the General Secretary and Advisor of Changal College Evening. And before starting the event, let me give you a brief introduction of what Enactus is all about. So, Enactus is an international non-profit organization present in 36 countries around the world with over 72,000 active members. Enactus brings together a diverse network of university students, academic professionals, and industry leaders around the shared mission of creating a more sustainable world. We aim at developing the next generation of entrepreneurial leaders and social innovators. So, moving towards the topic that is queer and allies. So let me give you a brief definition of what actually queer and ally are. Queer is a word that describes sexual and gender identities other than straight and cisgender, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender people may all be identified with the word queer. Queer is sometimes used to express the sexuality and gender that can be complicated, change over time, and might not fit into identities. An ally, straight ally or heterosexual ally, is an heterosexual and cisgender person who supports equal civil rights, gender equality, and LGBTQIA social movements, challenging homophobia, biophobia, and transphobia. Not everyone who meets this definition identifies as an ally. An ally acknowledges that LGBT people face discrimination and thus are socially disadvantaged. They aim to use their position and privilege as heterosexual and cisgender individuals in the society, focused on cis-normativity and heteronormativity to counter discrimination against LGBTQIA people. So now I would like to introduce my fellow mate, Ria Goyal, member of Inactus, to introduce our panelists. Over to you, Ria.
Thank you, Yash. So now I would like to introduce our esteemed panelists. Our first panelist is Eher Abhina. Eher Abhina is an Indian transgender activist who has worked for transgender empowerment. She has worked for various organizations. She is also an artist and the founder of Dancing Queens, a dancing group of transgender people. She is currently associated with iTech India as technical expert. Key population. She has more than 2 decades of experience in the HIV/AIDS sector. Our second panelist is Manvendra Singh Gohil. Manvendra Singh Gohil is an Indian prince who is the son and probable heir of the Maharaja of Rajpipla in Gujarat. He is the first open gay prince in the world. He runs a charity, the Lakshya Trust, which works with the LGBTQIA community. Our third panelist is Ankita Mehra. She is an LGBTQIA activist, diversity and inclusion enthusiast, and MTV Roadies contestant. She was also included in top 19 LGBTQIA Youth for Change in India, KSF, and Canada in India. And she has created equal job opportunities for LGBTQIA people with disabilities, women attorneys, and veterans. Our fourth panelist is Gautam Yadav. Gautam Yadav identifies himself as gay and is living positively with HIV in India and is an inspiration to positives young and old. He is a former board member of UNAIDS Youth Advisory Forum from the Asia Pacific, and he is also working with Humsafar and Research Associates. Our last panelist is Sridhar Rangayan. Sridhar Rangayan is an Indian filmmaker who has made films with special focus on queer subjects. His queer films, The Pink Mirror and Yours Emotionally, have been considered groundbreaking because of their realistic and sympathetic portrayal of the largely closeted Indian gay community. He is a founder member and trustee of the Humsafar Trust, the first gay NGO in India, along with Ashok Rokavi. Now we welcome you all on the behalf of Team Enactus and thank you for your time on this panel discussion. So our first question is for Gautam Yadav. Hi Gautam. Is he here?
Yeah. Why me
Hi
first?
Gautam.
Yeah.
Since the whole discussion is about queers and ally, so can you please briefly tell us about how can someone be a good ally?
See, can I speak in Hindi? Because I feel
Yeah,
that we
yeah,
should have
please
both
go
the
ahead.
languages.
Yeah,
So
sure, sure.
मेरा मानना ये है कि अलाइज जब हम अलाइज की बात करते हैं तो सबसे पहली चीज जो हम देखते हैं कि किस तरीके से एलजीबीटी को एक अलाइज का सपोर्ट होना बहुत जरूरी है बिकॉज एलजीबीटी कम्युनिटी के जो लोग हैं वो हमेशा अपने इश्यूज को टाइम टू टाइम हाईलाइट करते हैं और बात करते हैं उनके बारे में बट जब हम अलाइज की बात करते हैं तो अलाइज कैन बी एनी वन लाइक माई पेरेंट्स कैन फाइट फॉर द LGBT राइट्स एंड देन मेरे रिलेटिव्स या फिर मेरे घर में जो भी मेरे साथ यंगस्टर्स बच्चे हैं उस वो लोग हैं या फिर कॉलेज में अगर हम बात करें जिस तरीके से एक्टिविटी हम कॉलेज के साथ करते हैं पीपल कैन बी फ्रॉम एनी प्लेस एनीवेयर who identify themselves as a heterosexual person, they can be the ally for the LGBTQ community. Now what we understand with the allies is how much knowledge they have about this issue and time to time how much they are talking about this issue not only in front of the LGBT community but also for example अगर मैं आप लोगों की बात करूं तो एक तरीके से आपने जो ये इनिशिएटिव लिया है this is also going to bring सम चेंज, अगर जैसे अभी हमारे पास इस कॉल में जितने भी लोग हैं 54 के करीब लोग हैं, अगर इस कॉल के एंड तक कोई एक पर्सन ऐसा भी होता है जिसको LGBTQ के बारे में शायद अभी तक कभी कुछ पता ना रहा हो, एंड देन now that person is getting educated, so somehow you guys have taken that initiative to educate your team members and the college people related to the issue of the LGBT community. So I feel that this is the support which we seek from the allies to change the community, change the world around us. Yeah.
Thank you, Gautam. Thanks a lot. And that was quite informative. So my next question is for Aher. Hi, Aher.
Hello. Yes.
So the question is, according to Section 375, a man is said to commit a rape who, except in the case hereinafter, accepted has sexual intercourse with a woman with against her will. And there are many such laws which does not have inclusion of trans and other categories. So how challenging is that? Is this to you, and what's your take on it?
So thank you, first of all, Yash, for this question, and thank you all the team of Enactus to invite us. It's a privilege to share stage with Raja Saab, Sridhar sir, Gautam, and all the activists who are here. I think I just want to let you know that being part of hate crime or witnessing rape is an everyday affair for a lot of LGBTI people. They don't do it out of their will, but it happens with them. The unfortunate part is that it doesn't happen only in the early childhood, but it happens throughout their life. And the worst part about it is that it lacks with the reporting. It lacks with the aspiration for individuals to go up to the law and register about it, that this has happened with me. And third is that it doesn't have enough knowledge within the community, outside the community, about how these issues should be monitored. So like if you have to find out, if you just Google how many trans people or LGBTI people are have reported on the rape laws or forceful sexual engagement or harassment, there are very few data which is available on that, because many times is that our system reports the documentation on legal recourse on binaries, and second of all is that neither lawyer, neither judges, neither legal perspective, judicial reforms are aware about it. I still remember the 10 years battle that we fought with NALSA was a long process, like to reach out to a level where the transgender people 2014 was acknowledged as a third gender, took 10 years of a battle, where we have to take these senior judges to every consultation, help them understand, acha, who's hijra, who's a trans woman, who's a trans man, who's a jogti, because we don't come in black and white, but we come in the colors of beautiful rainbows. So each of our identities are different, each of our issues are different. Having said, coming back to your question, I just want to help you understand that there are so many living experiences that talks about how law it refuses. I will just tell you about a fresh example. 2 days before, 3 days before, a lot of trans activists are fighting for a harassment which has happened with a younger trans person by a senior Hijra group, and that person is almost 70% burnt. Unfortunately survived, but the police was not even registering the complaint of that person, because the victim or perpetrator was knew about the political situations in West Bengal, and we were aghast because now it is a threat for the people who have registered the complaint also, and other related activities also. So you can understand the intensity of it. Me myself have gone through being part of the as a part of the rape victim in my school days because of the hate crimes, where there was a bunch of boys who tried to insert a foot ruler inside my anus. It was a hate crime, it was not a sexual pleasure, but I could not report about it because as a child also I was not aware about all these things. When I was surviving on sex work also, there was number of incidences when police themselves have a forceful sexual activity with me. or goons have had a sexual activity. And when, even if I'm being educated, when I walked inside the police station, nobody was actually registering my FIR. So what you need to understand that within the LGBT spectrum, transgender people itself is a hugely discriminated, because the way we are and the way we look, we are the most visibly invisible community. So you see us, but you don't want to acknowledge us. You don't want to offer any services. Lately, we started talking about how many people are there, what are their issues. But still, the political parties don't consider transgender people as a vote bank. As a result of that, it neither reflects into the policies and neither it is reflects into judicial reforms. We have come up with the Transgender Act, which talks about that transgender people should not be discriminated. But we're still lacking with the action or political will at the judicial level or any other to agree to this. I think somebody has not put their mic on.
Arga, Arga,
Yeah. So yeah, that's it about. What I wanted to say to you is that we have long way to talk. We have long way to go to talk about civil rights. We have long way to go and talk about judicial reforms, and we have long way to talk about a dignity to the human life of a trans or LGBTI person. And that sinks my heart, because I'm fortunate that I managed to, in my lifetime, managed to see Section 377 going and Transgender Act being. I hope and I see that before I die, I get to see actually this laws which becomes gender neutral and not being specific to. So, like for example, a harassment can happen with Gautam, who's a young man, and can he report to the police station saying that, listen, somebody has raped me? Why there are distinct laws for a man and a woman, and why there are not laws which are gender neutral for everybody? Giving an example, the last example I want to talk about it is that the NALSA judgment itself says that if you have if somebody does a bad thing to me, a rape or something like that, the person who's a perpetrator can get a punishment up to 6 months. But if it happens on a cis woman, now when I mean to say cis woman, which means the woman who's born with the vagina at the time of birth and identified as a woman, that person can be taken, the victim can charge that person, and the person who is a perpetrator can actually go for a lifetime imprisonment, or it could have a very serious in case of girls, it just they just take action, they don't even wait for it. So what I'm trying to say, why not for transgender people? Why not for trans men? Why not for trans? Why don't we make the entire policy and judicial laws gender neutral, so that it secures everybody, irrespective of their gender, irrespective of their sexuality, and irrespective of their existence as a human being? Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ahir. That was quite informative and exercise. Thank you. And also, I would like to welcome our Professor Manish sir and Ibadat Jistu from Inaxis India. Thank you for being here with us. So our next question is for Ankita.
Hi.
Ankita.
Hi, Ria.
Hi. Hi. We watched your Roadies interview, and you publicly came out on the show on national television. How did you gather so much strength and courage to do so?
Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for being a part of this talk, and you have taken a first step to sensitize yourself. And I'm really young in the panel and sharing the panel with very incredible people like Avina, Gautam, Manvinder sir, Sridhar, and so many, right? So I would not take a lot of time. The strength, you spoke about strength, right? Actually, it was not strength which got me there. It was a lot of immense bullying and a lot of exclusion which got me there onto the platform to speak out, because since the childhood I have witnessed bullying to myself because of the way I dress, the way I express myself. If you can see that, I have a masculine gender expression, and for that I have struggled a lot, right? So even in school, when I used to walk normally, like my some of my teachers used to interrupt me and say that ladkiyon jaise chalo, uh, what is ladkiyon jaise chalna? Like, who said that that type of chalna is ladkiyon jaise chalna, right? So I was very, very worried that if I go out in a corridor and that teacher will catch me and she will again comment. They commented on the way I started wearing my clothes and the way I started, putting my hair. And I had long hair back then, but I knew that it was not me, and I had to be with that attire for so long. So, continuing with teachers, they were the first person to let me know that whatever I do is not right. Teachers are the one who gives you guidance, who makes you feel confident about yourself. That's why you go to school, right? For me, my journey was not like that. Going to the college, the first day of my college, I will say that it was a very great moment, like for any student to have the first day of their college being happy, because you're taking a next step in your career, and your journey towards the career. So during that time, I met, when I entered the school. That time, my sister helped me to cut my hair short. So this is a story to cut my hair short as well. So after I finished my 12th, my sister said, "Okay, I know that this is not you. I know you want to short hair." So she convinced the family members. So coming from the Punjabi family, having short hair is not a deal. Okay, like it's very, very painful process to take the approvals, right? It is more painful than taking a refund from your college, okay, from the bills you have spent. So that painful process I've gone through. Like, my sister helped me with that because she was an ally, and she was the only one in my family who knew back then. So first, my hair was this long. Then we took level 1, cut this short. Level 2, cut this short. Level 3, cut this short. And level 4, like, proper short hair I had. So when I entered the college, people thought I was a boy, right? And my college dress was just a pant and a shirt and shoes. So when I entered the college, people thought I was a boy. So they started, looking at me. Why this boy does not have beard? Why this boy is like chikna and all? Like, they say all these things, right? So uh, it had happened with me a few days, and there was a person, like, for bullying. One of my senior have come to me and say that, "ए कल से लड़कियों जैसे बन के आना, ठीक है? तुझे अच्छे से चल, ठीक है? ये क्या है, बहुत कूल बनना चाहती है क्या तू? कल से लड़कियों जैसे बन के आना." So that was, the place where I was so upset, because I had no other option than staying in that college for 3 years, facing that type of treatment from one of my seniors and a few fellow folks of my class, right? So the bullying that I witnessed in college was not acceptable. And I was a topper of the college, Ria, and I was not a very regular child out too. I used to participate in all the debates. I used to win awards for college. My college had a good name with me as a student. I topped all 3 years in Pune University. I topped. So I expected a sense of behavior and the respect that other fellow students also have when they top this school, right? So this hate, the third will be the hate from the family, not extended family, not the, like, close family members, and the neighbors and people around me, right? So when I told few of my friends about my sexuality, they shared with their parents indirectly, and it was not right to share my space or my comments with anyone else out there. So I still remember a few of my friends I lost because they were unable to understand this, and they chose not to speak with me. That was another sense of exclusion. Uske ilawa, when they told their parents also that Ankita ladko jaisi rehti hai, or some of the parents witnessed that Ankita ladko jaisi rehti hai, they themselves told my friends that to stay away from me, right? So why? I'm a very good kid. I'm having a lot of sense of humor. I You can have great fun with me. We can go out for movies, we can go on ride, I can ride a bike, I can drive a car. Who doesn't want to be a friend with me, right? But at that moment, I had exclusion of not having great friends in my group. So for hate, when you grow up with the hate and exclusion, then you don't see anything else. You just want to make a space to sensitize people around you, or just to fit yourself in that you are as regular, and you are better as well. You are not just gay, you are Ankita who's a topper. So that was a step I took. So when I went to Rodi's auditions, I will be honest, I was in depression, and I was suicidal too. So I had nothing to lose. I knew that there will be a day that I will not be alive, or before this show will be telecasted, I might choose to kill myself. I'm sorry, this is a trigger warning. So when I went to the show, I went with the intention of sensitizing youth, because they were the ones to create so much of hate around me. And when I spoke about that, and all the five judges respected it and they supported it, then each and every Ran Vijay fan got sensitized. Each and every Neha Dupia's fan got sensitized. Each and every Harbhajan Singh or Nikhil Chanappa or all the other people who were there, every fan of theirs got sensitized when they saw their leader supporting me. Right. The intention was that I don't want to be in the show. I don't care. I'm a topper. I want to get a job in corporate. And now also, I've not gone back to that field. I just went to the audition. After that, I successfully created a space for me in a corporate world. Right. So that was the time where I felt that the world will listen to me. The world will see me as a human, not a person as having this sexual orientation. And the best part is when I went back to college again, when a show got telecasted, the people who, had the hate towards me, they're like, "Hi, Ankita, it's so good to see you. I'm glad we are friends." When you were my friend. So that happened. And when I got the support from my parents, I took mental health, a mental therapy. I went for therapy, and that was also one of the reasons that I met so many homophobic therapists, which made me feel very left out and excluded. But my parents' support to find the right therapist, and I came out to my father before the show. That support kept me alive today. And I cannot even say that, if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have happened. I would have not been alive. So I was given a second birth by a right therapist and my family and the allies around me.
Thank you, Ankita. We really admire you for your courage and strength. Now, our next question is for Sridhar, sir.
Yeah, hi.
Hello, sir. As we all know that you are an Indian filmmaker, your two projects, The Pink Mirror and Yours Emotionally, are banned in India. When you were working on these films, did you think that you would not be able to address the Indian audience with this?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I made The Pink Mirror way back in 2002, when basically there was hardly any LGBTQ films being made at that point of time. There were just a handful of LGBTQ films which were out there, and even they were not visible because there was no platform to showcase them. So I made it at that point of time. When I made it, it was just for a lark because I wanted to capture some of my very close friends. Basically, my close friends were drag queens. They used to perform at my house. They used to dress up and dance, and I just want to capture that dance per se. That's the reason we made this film, and it was all shot indoor because we were scared. In 2002, everything was underground yet. Homosexuality was not really spoken. I mean, it just had begun in 1994. The first gay magazine came out, Bombay Dos. And from then onwards, there's been a spiraling outward talk about LGBTQ issues. But at that time, there was no LGBTQ. There's just basically talk about gay, because the lesbians were invisible, the transgenders were invisible. There was no mention of QIA plus at all. So that's the kind of atmosphere I made that film. But we just made it for a lark because we felt that we want to project real issues of our own community. And it was supposed to be a comedy. There was no offense at all in the film, but unfortunately the film got banned because the censor board felt that we are not being sensible and empathetic to the community. I said, hello, I'm from the community myself. If I can't be empathetic to it, who else would be? But the main problem was basically it had two men dressed up as women talking in feminine gender, which was alien to them. And also it was anti-patriarchal because these two men who were dressed up as women were preying upon a man. So usually men prey upon women. Women cannot prey upon men, So that's the basic reason they said it was not okay. So they kind of refused to the certificate. And finally it went on to almost 80 film festivals. But finally in 2015, it came on Netflix. So we had to wait for so long for it to be showcased on a public platform. So I'm happy that it happened. And after that, my couple of more films have been on Netflix. Breaking Free was on Netflix, and now Evening Shadows, my latest feature film. You all must see that because it's on Netflix. And basically that talks about a young person coming out as mother, but it's more about the mother coming out against patriarchy, standing up as a woman, And that is something we want to talk about also. The first question was about allies, So parents can be your best allies to begin with, because like even Ankita said, she came out to her father first and then went on to coming out. So usually what happens when you come out to yourself first, that takes a long time. I came out to myself when I was 27-year-old. I was a super late bloomer because at that time when I was coming out, there's absolutely silence. There's no mention of homosexuality in the press. Of course, there was no internet at that point of time. I'm from the dinosaur age. So imagine growing up in 1970s and 80s and not having a word to address what you felt within you. So those were the days. And basically, I first took a long time to come out myself. And then you come out to your close friends. And then you come out to your family members. Then you come out in the world. Like Manmendra Singh basically came out to the press. That was a huge step for him. So even for me, I came out in 1992 or something like that, out in the press. And my mother said, why did you have to come out in the press? I accept you as a gay man, but why did you have to tell the world? I said I had to tell the world because there could be one lonely soul somewhere in a corner in India who feels that like that person's aspirations are met with by seeing another person who's talking about it openly. So that's the reason I've been basically talking about it. It's not that I'm proud to be gay. What is there to be proud to be gay? I'm proud because I'm able to kind of put together both myself. My self as a human being, as a filmmaker, as a son to my mother, and myself as a gay man. I'm able to join those two things without any anxiety or fear. That's what I'm proud about. So it's taken a long time. Believe me, I'm one from those generations who still carry our mental scars because we were, as Abhina mentioned, even a lot of gay men like me and everybody were blackmailed. The police would harass us, and we were always in fear. We were always in fear, especially when I came out in the 1990s. After I came out, I was really worried that anybody who would kind of press the doorbell, it was a scare to open that door because you don't know. And that time, even the political party in power in Mumbai was not a conducive party, So let me put that also. So it was a very traumatic time, and some of our generation people will never get over those scars. But thankfully now things have moved far ahead and the new generation, but you also have new issues with the new generation. The bullying still continues, and they also do not have enough space to kind of express their gender freely. So we need to really be bringing a lot of allies. All of you are thankfully here listening, and I just hope you take back something for your own. So it's been an interesting journey for me as an activist and also as a filmmaker. I feel that I'm not arrived. You will always say that, okay, you have arrived somewhere. But for me, it's a constant journey. It's a constant learning. For me, I'm right now in my phase where I'm learning about the other identities within the LGBTQIA plus community. Because when we started out, as I said, there's only gay men, lesbian women, and transgender person. We didn't even know a single bisexual person. We didn't know anybody who was intersex, and anybody who talks about non-binary. So for me, it's still a process of learning these identities and making sure that these identities have a space within the LGBTQIA movement, So I really think that we need to be more, other things like we need to be, when you say what can the allies do? Allies can basically be more sensitive to the pronouns. When you address somebody, the first thing you should ask is, what is your pronoun? That person could be dressed, he could be born as a male, could be dressed as a woman, totally. But what does the person wants to be addressed as? So the first thing you should ask anybody is, how do I address you? What is your pronouns? And then from there onwards, the respect will build. I just want to bring that on the table.
Thank you so much, sir. So our next question is for Manvendra, sir.
Yes.
Hello, sir. So I would like to ask you that in spite of knowing that your parents wanted you to hide your sexuality, how did you gather the courage to come out?
Yeah, thank you for that question. First of all, I want to pardon you all for not having good lighting on me because I'm at the present sitting in the Queer Bagh, the community campus in my royal establishment, and we have a thunderstorm going on, just started, and the powers have gone. Power has gone off, so I'm on sitting with the generator with just one light, so therefore it is dark and you're not able to see my face. Yes, so my journey has been also quite challenging, like you heard all the others speak. And in my case, it was a little bit differently challenged, I would say, because being born in a royal family itself is a challenge. I mean, though now we don't have any powers or privileges or any sort of things, but we are still the custodians of this rich cultural heritage, which has been inherited by us from our ancestors. I mean, my dynasty goes back to the 13th century. So you can imagine, how old is our family and how old is our heritage. So with this, we come with a lot of roles and responsibilities, and there's tremendous expectations from us by the people of our town, Rajpipla. Sridhar has been there, so he will tell you. He will agree with me that there is tremendous respect for the royal family. Even today, they don't trust the politicians as much as they trust us. So you can imagine that kind of scenario is we are treated like gods. My ancestors are worshipped, and people come there for praying and all sort of things. Still, even today's date, it is happening. So, and then being born in this family, and then knowing I'm different and not knowing why I'm different. Because again, I come from the dinosaur age, like Sridhar comes from the, growing up in the 60s and 70s, where, we had absolutely no clue about what's happening. And, the words like gay and lesbian were there. In fact, it's very interesting. I mean, the first time I heard the word gay and lesbian was from my own parents' mouth, and not telling me, but they were having some discussions amongst the royal families. They were all one day sitting together, and they said, "Oh, you know what? Following person from the royal family, he's gay, and the following person from the royal family, she's lesbian." And I said, I used to wonder, what is this word? This gay and lesbian. So I just thought, let me check the dictionary, and then when I checked the word gay, it meant happy. So I said, okay, so that's nothing wrong. If the following Maharaja is happy, then that's good enough, But I didn't know what was lesbian, And it was after I grew up, I came to know that, this is what they were talking about. And even the word hijra, I've heard from my own parents' mouth, because they've always used to confuse gay and hijra. I think, oh, you know what, that Maharaja of that town, he's a hijra. And I used to wonder, I know hijras who are, begging on the streets and clapping and this. And I used to wonder, how can a Maharaja be hijra? Because Maharaja we are supposed to be seeing him in a male, red clothing. And how can Maharaja be hijra? So there was always this confusion. So, I also came, like Sridhar said, he came out to himself at the age of 27. I came out even 3 years later. At the age of 30, I came out, and the person who helped me was none other than Ashok Rao Kavi, whom I met first time in Sridhar's house. So it was. We are all linked, in this the panelists. We are all linked some way or the other. So Sridhar had this party in his house, and I kind of met Ashok, and then it turned out that Ashok turned out to be my next door neighbor. We are living in the same kind of street, and just next to each other. And that's how Ashok was the one who made me feel comfortable with my sexuality and gave me an identity. And he changed my life, and he also introduced me to Humsafar Trust, the organization which he had started. So, and he was the one who he also motivated me that, you should start an organization. And this Lakshya Trust was started in Gujarat, which is the first organization of its kind, because Humsafar was working in Mumbai, and Gujarat also needed a platform for the community. So Ashok helped me in that. So that's how it happened. Now, with regards to my parents, what had happened was that I was kind of struggling with my sexuality. I knew who I was, but I was closeted. I was wanting to live the life of truth, but was unable to do because of all the, as I mentioned to you, all these royal protocols and all which we are carrying on our head, with all these expectations, from the people. So I was getting too much exhausted and too much of, tormented with and having this lot of pressures on me, and I couldn't take it anymore. And one day I just had a nervous breakdown. I was in hospital, and the doctor who treated me fortunately happened to be extremely gay friendly. So he came out to my parents and he told me that, look, I'll help you to come out to them so that your suffering can be reduced. And the first thing my parents said, that they went into complete denial. They said, it's not true. Our son cannot be gay. Number one, he had so many girlfriends in school, which I had, but most of them were Bollywood girlfriends because I studied in a school where a lot of Bollywood children were there. So I had a lot of girlfriends, but they didn't know my relation with those girlfriends was what, it wasn't like sexual, but it was. But anyways, that was one thing. Second thing they said, his upbringing has been so rich and we've given him so much of sanskar, that he possibly couldn't be gay. So they always, they connect cultural upbringing with your sexuality. And the third thing they said was that he was not gay, but it was Ashok Rao Kavi who made him gay. So Ashok was made the villain of the story. And they said that Ashok knew he is from a royal family. So for his own interest, he said, he should make him gay so that we can use him to promote homosexuality in India. So that was the thing. So anyway, but then the psychiatrist insisted, no, it's not what you say is not correct. And he gave the thing which came to my rescue was that I was left-handed when I was young. And they took me to doctors to make me right-handed because all our rituals and everything has to be done with right hand. Left hand is not supposed to be used. And the doctor plainly refused, the psychiatrist, that please do not make him right-handed. It will have serious mental repercussions on him. So the psychiatrist who was treating me for the nervous breakdown said, look, you could not make your son right-handed from left-handed. Similarly, you cannot make him straight from gay because it's not a mental disorder. It's not a disease, you have to just accept it. But parents are parents, Indian parents, how they are. So they said, no, we are not willing to listen to you. We'll try other sources. We'll send him to America. America is more advanced than India. We will subject him to, we'll get his brain opened up and perform a brain surgery, to see that what is wrong with his brain, and then that way he could be cured. Or we can even subject him to electroshock therapy, give him shocks and then he will understand that, who he is. So anyway, they tried that, but unfortunately for them and fortunately for me, American Psychiatric Association had way back in the 1970s said that homosexuality is not a mental disorder. So they failed in that as well. So they said, okay, now if science doesn't work, then what is above science? Religion. So they started taking me to all religious, India, we know there's no doubt of religious leaders. You have all the kinds of sadhus, saints, mahatmas, babas, this, that, men and women, and God only knows who, So, and Ashok has been my great support. He kept telling me, Manav, he calls me Manav. He said, you fully cooperate with your parents. Don't, allow them to get totally mentally satisfied, You know who you are, so you don't have to worry about that. So they took me from north, east, south, west. 3 years, they took me to all kinds of religious leaders. Somebody said, become vegetarian. I became vegetarian. One person said, write Ram Ram in your diary. I filled up some 3-4 notebooks writing Ram Ram. I did that also. One person said, light a lamp in the evening. Another one said, drink well water. Another one said, do yoga. I did everything very religiously. I did for 3 years. And instead of becoming straight, I became even more gay. So they reached their point of their limit was crossed. They said science is not working, religion is not working. Now let's start emotionally blackmailing, and which Indian parents, especially the mothers, they specialize in emotionally blackmailing your children. And they said, we are removing you from all businesses. You are not a partner anymore. You're not a director in a company. You're not a trustee, because gay person cannot do business, because according to them, I'm mentally deranged, So how can a person who is mentally retarded, how can I run any business, So they started doing that. Then they started telling me, threatening me that we go and tell this one and that one, and they will all unfriend you and disassociate themselves with you, and then you'll be a loner. And, even they tried to, kind of go to the government to allege that I'm doing financial manipulation in Lakshya, So I got inquiries coming from the government, but I have been always very transparent and very much clean in my activities. So the government could not have any kind of, they couldn't have, the allegations totally went wrong. That that I'm not doing any kind of manipulation, and the Lakshya Trust is very clean and pure, and it's like, on the contrary, government is very proud of us that we have Lakshya Trust. So that also backfired, and by then I had reached that point in my life. I said, enough is enough. Just for no fault of mine, if I'm just there, have told them that I'm gay. I have been made to suffer with so much of discrimination, stigma, my human rights, basic human rights, have been violated at each time of my life, and this is like, this is too much to bear. And also there has been so much of hypocrisy which I was seeing prevailing in the society. I mean, imagine my own parents knowing that there are gays and lesbians existing, and then there's somebody comes in your family, then you don't want to accept it. My own cousins, I mean, my mother knows that my own cousin brother was gay, but that's fine, that's acceptable because that's not from that family, not from the immediate family. But when I'm telling I'm gay, that I'm not accepted. And I mean, also by then I had learned a little bit about our history and mythology and known about Khajuraho and Kama Sutra and all these things where, we had evidence about homosexuality existing in our culture, and yet people don't want to even accept the fact, and they want to, on the contrary, say that it's a Western influence and, things like that. So that was happening. Then there was a godfather of mine, friend of mine, who used to, keep watching us and seeing what we are doing in Lakshya and all. And he used to constantly tell me that, look, Manav, y'all are doing excellent job in trying to fight for your rights and all. One of y'all needs to become a Bhagat Singh, to make your movement stronger. So I used to keep listening, and then I thought to myself, I said, anyone else becomes or not, let me become Bhagat Singh, let me sacrifice myself and see what happens. Jo hoga dekha jayega. Meanwhile, something very interesting happened. A journalist approached me who knew that I was gay, and she wanted to do a story on me. And when she approached me, I said, wow, this is a golden opportunity, I was like, in a prison. I was like, I call myself in a prison. First of all, born in a royal family itself is a prison. Secondly, when you are born in a royal family and you're gay, then you're a double prison. And then thirdly, you're born in the royal family and you're a closeted gay. That means you're in another prison, So I said, I want to be free. I want my independence. I can't be a prisoner anymore. And so I took the plunge. I told the journalist, yes, please, you interview me. I'm willing to give. She said, are you sure it's going to be a big news? I said, I don't care whatever news it is. I want to declare, because I'm fed up of living this life of being a prisoner and without my fault and for nothing what I've done. So that's how this whole news came as a big headlines on 14th March 2006. The Prince of Rajpipla declares that he is homosexual, and it was a time, I call it an earthquake, because I mean there are a lot of earthquakes which happened, but this was a huge earthquake which happened where shock waves went right up to America and Europe and all the whole world, because I created history by becoming the first member of a royal family in the world to come out openly as gay. So that's how it happened. And of course, the rest is history. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So I'm very sorry for everything you all have been gone through, and so we have to move on now. So our next round of questions is the open for all round. So anyone from our panelists can answer these questions. So my first question is, we say that things are changing and better now, but there are few people who are just opposite to an ally. Like there are some content creators like Carrie Minati, Hindustani Wow, and many others are there with huge fan following who really don't have anything there in their content. They are not funny. They are just using community words as an abusive slur and are too much homophobic and phobic. And there is so much hatred against a particular community like K-pop. BTS suffered a huge hatred due to all these toxic masculinity. And so how do you think this is impacting the current generation who idolizes these content creators? And I have myself seen kids of class 6th and 7th, sorry, there's a trigger warning, queerphobia aired, normalizing the use of words such as chakka and using them as an abusive slur. So how do you think these things are impacting the current generation, and how do you feel when such kinds of contents are out?
Can
Anyone
I
can
answer?
answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So एक्चुअली कई बार ये होता है कि अराउंड अस कई बार हम खुद भी इग्नोरेंस में जी रहे होते हैं और बहुत सारी चीजें हम जानते हुए भी हम एक पर्दा डाल के रखते हैं। स्पेसिफिकली इंडियन सोसाइटी एंड इंडियन पेरेंट्स, हम लोगों को बचपन से ये सिखाया जाता है दैट डू वट एवर यू वॉन्ट टू डू बट बिहाइंड द कर्टन। लोगों को नहीं पता चलना चाहिए। वो चार लोग अगर जान जाएंगे तो बहुत कुछ हो जाएगा। एंड देन टिल नाउ वी डोंट नो हु दोज फोर पीपल आर सीरियसली। एंड तो कई बार ये होता है, जैसे अगर आपने एग्जाम्पल दिए हैं कैरी मिनाटी और भी यूट्यूबर्स हैं, या फिर स्कूल में या कॉलेजेस में जो बुलिंग होती हैं उनका इम्पैक्ट जो होता है, कई बार दीज पीपल डोंट रियलाइज बट वी पुश एलजीबीटी कम्युनिटी टूवर्ड्स द सुसाइडल टेंडेंसीज, टूवर्ड्स द डिप्रेशन। लाइक फॉर एग्जाम्पल, एक मैं अपना खुद का अगर एग्जाम्पल दूं, आई केम आउट टू माई फैमिली एट द एज ऑफ 17, but before that when I was in 8th standard, somebody in my school called me chakka. A exact word, he called me hijra. And then I was more confused that I am dressed up like a boy. मैं बात करता हूँ एक लड़के की तरह, मैं चलता हूँ एक लड़के की तरह, सारी चीजें जो भी हैं वो एक बॉय की तरह हैं, बट वाई दीज पीपल आर कॉलिंग मी छक्का, हिजड़ा, महिला, even for that matter because I born and brought up in slums, so people used to call me juggi. They never called my name, they used to call me juggi, juggi से आया है। तो दीज थिंग्स जब भी होती थी तो मैं हमेशा डिप्रेशन में चला जाता था, जिसकी कारण 8th स्टैंडर्ड में मुझे मेरा स्कूल छोड़ना पड़ा। एंड उसके बाद अपने स्टडी को कंटिन्यू करने के लिए मुझे इतने सारे अपने आप से ही बातें करनी पड़ी कि मुझे स्टडी क्यों करनी है, व्हाई इट इज इम्पोर्टेंट। एंड देन कभी भी ये मैं नहीं कर पाया कि मैं रेगुलर स्कूल या कॉलेजेस में जा पाऊँ। then I started my schooling from the open school and then open university, and that's how I pursue my school and college, you know. So people like me still, like, because I call Manav my mentor, क्योंकि last time also 3 days back when he was taking my interview for Red FM, I told him he is like my mother who brought me in this planet of LGBT community, जहाँ पे मैं और कई सारे लोगों से मिला हूँ। like अगर आज मैं श्रीधर सर को जानता हूँ, अबीना को जानता हूँ, अंकिता को जानता हूँ, या फिर एनी बडी ऑन दिस LGBT कम्युनिटी, आई नो एवरी ऑफ देम बिकॉज ऑफ मानव। तो अगर मानव ने मुझे हैंडल नहीं किया होता उस वक्त और मुझे नाज के साथ कनेक्ट नहीं किया होता, तो शायद मैं भी उनमें से एक होता जो सुसाइडल टेंडेंसीज की वजह से या तो सुसाइड कर चुका होता या कोई ऐसा स्टेप ले चुका होता जो कि शायद उस टाइम पे उस 17 साल के बच्चे को नहीं लेना चाहिए। तो कई बार ये होता है कि हम जाने अनजाने, इवन व्हेन वी आर इन द कॉलेज, एक एग्जांपल और देना चाहूंगा। जैसे मेरा जो नेफ्यू है, व्हेन ही वेंट इनटू द कॉलेज फर्स्ट ईयर, आई स्पेसिफिकली टोल्ड हिम कि अगर आप कॉलेज में जा रहे हो, देयर विल बी पीपल जो हो सकता है कि एलजीबीटी कम्युनिटी से भी हों। तो बेटा कभी भी ये मत करना कि अगर 10 लोग उसकी बुलिंग कर रहे हैं या लेग पुलिंग कर रहे हैं तो तुम भी उन 10 लोगों का एक हिस्सा बनो और 11वें पर्सन तुम हो। रेदर देन तुम ये करना कि उस पर्सन के साथ तुम खड़े होना, बिकॉज यू नो द हिस्ट्री ऑफ योर मामा, यू नो वेयर फ्रॉम योर मामा इज कमिंग फ्रॉम। सो दैट्स हाउ आई टीच माई किड्स इन माई होम। लाइक सिमिलरली अगर हम रेप केसेस के बारे में बात करें तो हम देखते हैं रेप केसेस के बारे में, बट वी डोंट टॉक अबाउट इट। वी स्टिल डोंट टीच आवर किड्स व्हाट इज गुड टच, व्हाट इज बैड टच। एंड मैं अबीना के आंसर के साथ जस्ट एक चीज और यहाँ पे ऐड करना चाहूंगा विच आई फील इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। I handled a transgender person's rape case in Delhi, एंड शाम को 6 बजे जब मैं पुलिस स्टेशन पहुंचा हूं तो वहां से वन पुलिस स्टेशन टू अनदर, अनदर टू अनदर, ऐसे करके मुझे रात के 8 बज गए चक्कर काटते हुए। देन रात को 8 बजे से 2 घंटे हम पुलिस स्टेशन में बैठे हैं। 10 बजे व्हेन आई मेट द SHO मिस्टर मलिक इन द पुलिस स्टेशन, ही वाज क्वेश्चनिंग कि एक हिजड़े का रेप कैसे हो सकता है, ट्रांसजेंडर्स का रेप होता ही नहीं है। एंड इमेजिन इफ समबडी इज सेइंग कि ट्रांसजेंडर का रेप नहीं होता है, तो फॉरगेट अबाउट द मेल रेप्स, क्योंकि मेल रेप तो कोई बोलता भी नहीं है। हिम्मत करके अगर एक ट्रांसजेंडर पर्सन वो केस रजिस्टर करवाता है तो उसको इतनी सारी चीजें सुनने को मिलती हैं। देन आई हैड टू टेल हिम अबाउट द नालसा जजमेंट, एंड देन लड़ाई करने के बाद उनका FIR लॉन्च हुआ, एंड देन सुबह के 3 से 4 बज गए हमें उनका मेडिकल प्रोसीजर पूरा करने के लिए कि उनका रेप हुआ है। And now, after being 3 years, that transgender person called me 2-3 days back and she was like, Gautam, please help me out because I'm done with this case. police is harassing me and I don't know where this case is going, I really want to withdraw my petition. So such things are still happening, and knowingly unknowingly हम हमारे ही आसपास लोगों को कब क्या चीज बोल दें हम रियलाइज नहीं करते, बट हाँ वो चीज जब हमारे ऊपर होती है तो हम बोलते हैं अरे ये हमारे साथ नहीं होना चाहिए, देन वी बिकम अ बेचारा और विक्टिम, but then we don't realize that how many people we are creating that world to them, you know. That's what I
I
wanted to say.
I also have an addition, Yash, because I come from the generation where this social media, we are active users of it, right? And because of I used to follow Carrie Minati a lot, to be honest. But when I got to know, like from the beginning itself, he has been pushing in transphobia or homophobia a lot. What happens is that there's 3 crore or 4 crore views that he gets on his video, and I'm just talking about one creator right now. There are so many out there, and forget about it, just Bollywood movies as well, how they have represented gay people in the past, how they have reflected the trans person as well. So they have been justifying that even if a person who has a feminine gender expression is chakka or hijra, or they belong to the LGBT community, that is not true. So that comes with the lack of education of gender expression and sexual orientation. So I will not blame them entirely. I know whatever they're doing is wrong, but 20% blame goes on the upbringing and the sensitization that they have never gone through, and the representation which is being given or fed to us forcefully since we were growing up. It is a part of it. So I think Sridhar also will have more and more insights towards, and I would like to hear you, Sridhar, as well. Like, what are your comments on the Bollywood representation?
So yeah, I mean, one of the things is like I think we need to applaud that the Bollywood representation is changing rapidly. There have been more inclusive representation over the past decade. At least more sensitive films have come out, like Ek Ladki Ko Dekha, Aligarh, Shubh Mangal Jada Savdhan. Though I don't like Shubh Mangal Jada Savdhan, but it's normalized a lot more issues per se. But I really think that like some of the films which are really portraying very negative portrayals, like that has not stopped. Like a film like Lakshmi Bomb, where Akshay Kumar plays a very and that can create a transphobia which can not be mitigated because he's a very popular star. Him portraying something like that takes our movement back by decades, and that's the sad part. So as much as we applaud good films, we need to be pulling down these films. And recently Ram Gopal Varma's film, which is about a lesbian love story, which is like totally evil. I mean, it takes me back to the film called Girlfriend, which was released in 1990s or something like that. It's just horrible. So lesbian women are still seen as erotic kind of a representation, and they're really badly portrayed. So we need better portrayals. But as I said, things are changing, and especially some of the OTT platforms have pushed the edge a lot more. I would say Made in Heaven on Netflix, Four More Shots has been a beautiful portrayal, but they're fewer and far between. So out of 1,000 films, we get maybe 2 good portrayals in a year, which is ridiculous. You know, we need more better portrayals of LGBTQ persons. There could be smaller characters. Okay, they need not be the whole film or OTT show need not be focused on just the LGBTQ character. But whatever you do, portray them sensitively. And if you don't understand them, don't portray them. Forget it. You can move on. You have so many other characters to portray. Why pick on an LGBTQ person, and portray it badly? So that has to change. But the other thing about trolls per se, everybody's trolling anybody and everybody. So that's the other thing. We need to be more considerate to each other. Whatever you could be right wing or left wing. You could be either middle, but you need to be respectful for each other's views. And that's what I feel. So you just should, basically, if you don't like a comment, just pass away. You don't have to forcibly comment there, right? Nobody's asking you to comment at every post that you see. So if you don't like a post, move on. But if you like a post, acknowledge it. If there's a sensitive, warm post about an LGBTQ person, acknowledge it, share it, I would say. And I think all of us can do that. All of you allies can do that. When you see something important and interesting, share it widely so that it kind of spreads the news saying that this is a very positive portrayal or in a film or on a book or an artwork, whatever you want to do, or a music video. So I would say that like share good things and don't at all promote any bad things. That's the basic thing. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know about Carrie Minati. I've heard of that person, but I've not seen any of his works at all. So I need to go and check it out, of course.
Don't give him view.
No, I don't want you. I
Don't,
don't.
that was exactly my
Totally.
point. Don't give him a cloud.
Totally.
So thank you so much. And
Good evening, everyone.
so
Hello, yes, can I ask a question?
yes,
My question is to Abhina Ahel, that every society has its own culture and they always try to prevent their cultures. My question is that what about the culture of LGBT and how they prevent their culture? And should LGBT community wants to spread their culture too?
Thank you for your question. It's an interesting question because what is the LGBT culture? India has its own culture, and LGBT is part of that culture. It is not some distinct culture, as in that we have to show. I mean, given a choice, if we would have had an opportunity, I could have talked about. Manvinder Singh ji talked about. Rajasa talked about hijras being part of royal families, right? I mean, there are so many royal families which were governed by the hijras. Varnas of Hindu mythology, Hindu construct that talks about four Varnas, and of course sadhu, where kinnars were part of the sadhu parampara. That's the reason why Brahmin and Kinnar were given an opportunity not to actually earn, but to actually go and which take things from the society to give larger awareness and support towards them. Per se, if you talk about culture, as in like LGBT community, I think Sridharji will be able to talk about more from the prominent perspective. What were the early cultures of LGBTI perspective? But there weren't any specific culture that I have seen, as in the culture that has been there about supporting each other, the culture which has been there always about respecting a lot of from the each other's identities and giving spaces and respect to them. When it comes to the hijra construct or the Jokti Parampara concept, in transgender community, the cultures that we carry and we still inherit and we still continue is a Devdasi Parampara. The entire construct of hijras and the the Jokti Parampara is construct of Devdasi Parampara that they would talk about it. Now there are several stories. Unfortunately, I have heard with our authorities like Nayaks, there has been they have scripts of say 1,000 years back, which talks about Kinnar Parampara, which talks about Jogappa Parampara. All these paramparas they talk about it, and it has been a normal. Normal is a wrong word, but it has been a common practice among the situations. You need to understand the development of India also. Previously, when we did not had invasions and when the country was like that, we've embraced our cultures, which talks about. Kama Sutra, which talks about equal the Gramin Grama Sanstha, which also gave a space for women in sex work, which gave a space for Nagar Vadhu, which talks about Ek Raja and Praja, which talks about Varnas. All those things are there, and LGBT community has been part of that. In fact, there are so many evidences about queer poetry. There are so many evidences about queer love. There are so many evidences about people constructed certain things for somebody, killed people, conquered So there has been a lot of construct which were not so rigid. But as we move towards, invasions, there was a lot of invasions from the various religions that came to the constructs. Like within Hijra culture, also the name Hijra was not there. Like in our culture that we say, it says that is the name Hijra was not there. It was always Kinnara, somebody who's neither male or a female. That a lot of, even in India right now, if you go to different parts of India, the transgender people are named by different names. So if you go to Gujarat, they are called as Lalma. If you go to Odisha, they are called as Maitsya. If you go to UP, there is a Londa culture, Londa dance culture, which is there. If you go to South, there is something called as Jogappa or Sivasakti Mangalmukhi. All those identities embrace what? They embrace the liberation. They embrace the different sexualities and gender expression, and that's how they come into the different colors and perspective on the customs, and that those customs are still there. I am part of the Hijra culture. I am still part of the Hijra culture, but I am also a 9 to 5 working woman. I have my chelas who are working right now. I empower people. I don't say because I am a Hijra and our traditional culture is to clap and to actually go for begging or go for things. You should be continuing with that. But the next generation Hijra should be the one who should be tolerant about other youngsters who get the equal opportunity for employment and education. So there is a forward thinking within that. But at the same time, we are also saying that we should protect our culture. So I was talking the other day with somebody saying that is a lot of people connect Hijra community in a very wrong connotations, that ye log aise hai, there's a lot of harassment, but there is also social support. Lot of youngsters who run away from their mother and father, I for longest period of time, out of my income, 40% of income I was investing on the young transgender people to give them shelter within my own house without taking any money from them. So that is also a beauty of Guru Chela Parampara, motherhood, brotherhood, Guru Bhai Parampara, all the rituals that they happen. So it's a beautiful thing. It's just that now, as the society is developing, as the country is developing, we are getting into a different checks and balances on that, about how we express our culture and how we inherit our culture. Dance and culture is always still there, and me as an individual part of the Hijra community, I've used dance as a culture for an advocacy. So I established something called the Dancing Queen, which was a dance group of LGBTI people, especially transgender-led dancing group, which used dance as a platform to talk about LGBTI advocacy issues. So culture is always there. We have writings, we have poetries, we have evidences that we are still contributing, but now we are talking about a next generation of LGBT movement, which talks about no stigma discrimination, which talks about total and equal respect to everybody, and which talks about inclusion of human and civil rights, which is a very important aspect. I think I will give it to Sridhar ji to add something.
Okay, thanks, Avida. That's been a very, very good talk about basically Hindu mythology and the place of transgender persons within the earlier communities. But I don't know whether Animesh's question was basically about this new spread of LGBTQ culture. I don't understand your question, but if you're thinking that like we are trying to kind of involve more and more people to become LGBTQ, that's totally wrong. Why would we ever do that? Because like we have suffered so much. Our generation and even the new current generation is suffering so much because they're LGBTQ. Why would we want to induct more people to suffer the same? There's nobody being inducted and spreading the culture. What we are doing is we are trying to basically be more honest. And now actually there's an environment, like as I said, in 1980s and 70s when I was growing up, there was no talk about it. Now we are able to talk about it, at least have an open conversation. So that is not spreading our culture. It's basically being more honest about who we are and talking about ourselves, bringing awareness. That's one of the things. And I would say that like, so it's nothing like, I mean, what is the LGBTQ culture? I don't understand this particular thing. If you want to talk about it, we can do that. But as Abhina said, LGBTQ people have always existed. They've been buried under. They've been buried under because of patriarchy. They've been buried under because of colonial law. And now basically they have found a voice. and they're trying to be. So if you count the number of LGBTQ people who existed, I would say 40 years back, and now there would be the same number of people. Now there are more visible people. That's all I'm saying. There are more visible LGBTQ people. Earlier also, same number of LGBTQ people existed. They were underground. They were hidden. Now they have the courage to come out. Somebody like Ankita Mehra, who's young, somebody like Gautam Yadav, who's young, has managed to come out and express his gender or his sexuality openly. Earlier, the same person would have hidden, got married to person of the other gender, and that's the way it existed in the past. So the number of LGBTQ persons will not change. Though you LGBTQ persons have kind of being born or inducted or transformed or
converting others.
Yeah.
You can't make somebody a LGBT person, or neither you can make somebody else.
Yeah. So I think so. The same number of people existed. It's just more and more people are out, and we need to appreciate that more and more people have the courage now because of all the enabling environment. Like the law has changed, and I would say the society is changing. All of you are more embracing of diversity. All you students and youngsters. So that's been giving a lot of youngsters courage to come out openly. That's all I would say.
So if anyone else wants to ask any question, so they can drop it in a chat box, or either they can open up their mic and say. I guess
There's a question in the chat box. I just want to answer that. There's a question in the chat box about migration of youngsters, and that for me is a big problem right now. And in my generation, obviously, when we were totally invisible, a lot of youngsters migrated to US and Australia and New Zealand because that's the only place they could be more comfortable. And a lot of us migrated from small towns to big cities. Like I'm from a small town in south of India. I migrated to Mumbai, a lot of people came to Mumbai and migrated abroad, That used to be the trend, but right now, I don't know why they should do that, because I think there's a more enabling environment right now. LGBTQ people can be more comfortable if they wish to. But again, the first point is self-acceptance. If you're able to accept yourself and also form a group of friends, whether straight friends or LGBTQ friends, if you form a set of close friends who can support you and care for you, you can be as happy here in India as you can be anywhere in the world. I think right now the enabling environment has happened. I would say still in the metros, I agree, but tier 2 and tier 3 cities definitely need more, I would say, awareness creation. But we are on a good wicket right now. I think the LGBTQ community, youngsters have taken charge. They are more vocal in the social media. I think there's a lot more enabling element. I don't see any reason why anybody now has to go outside India, because also the job market is as good in India as anywhere outside India. I think there's equal opportunity in India right now. Most of the companies have equal opportunity policies for LGBTQ people. I would say 80% of the companies would have an equal opportunity and diversity and inclusion policy in place. So I don't see any reason why they should migrate anywhere outside. I think people are coming back to India who had migrated in the 60s and 70s. That's what I've been seeing.
I also want to have an addition there. So if I would have had an option to move out of India, I would have happily moved out, relating to a young generation as well. For me, like I understand that people in 70s or 80s, for them, it's a very big change. It's a very, very big change that a lot of inclusion is happening, because they lived their lives in, struggling with the fitment of their existence in the society. For me, even 1% of exclusion is a trigger. So, like, I'll give you one example. COVID happened, vaccination your companies are providing. You had an option of Spock, you had an option of your partner, but you did not have an option of your same-sex partner to get vaccinated with you. That one thing triggered me so much. And another incident I would like to share with you, which happened with my own society, right? So my neighbor, he became my very close friend, and suddenly we were drinking one day on a weekend, and that was a time that person said that, Ankita, I know you're a lesbian, but why you have to crib about it? That one statement made me feel excluded for the place I live in. I have to step out of my house every day to feel that this person said that to me. So even for 1% of exclusion, the people of my generation, because we are seeing how other countries have been progressing on these areas. They are adopting kids, they are easily getting married, and here if you see, there's a lot of pressure from your relatives also. They don't mind their own business, man. Like, what is your problem? So they always come in between and stop you from so many things, right? If in case, like, I need to attend some wedding right now, I need to force, like, I was forced to dress like a feminine person. I don't do it anymore because I gladly had the courage to, give it on their face. But still, a lot of ignorance towards the reality of the relatives is also making people to leave their countries. And I would love to leave if in case in once I feel that, my neighbors are making me feel excluded. My company where I work for give my hard work, and they're earning good money because of me, and the same company is telling me that I can't get my partner vaccinated with me. Dude, I don't want to be with you, right? And the companies are not providing gender neutral washrooms also. Like, just because I identify myself as a woman and my sexuality is lesbian, I would love to go for a gender neutral washroom because I feel more safe there. And that's a place where people will not blame it on me that I tried on them, right? There are so many things which happens, and if in case now, yes, companies are taking steps, but they're also taking so much of rainbow washing. They are also looking onto so many things which actually is not a progress, just to feel included with other corporates or fellow corporates. Like, I know a very very limited names who have policies for all, like inclusive policies. Companies are not even willing to spend like 30,000 for a consulting session for having the right policy. They want to do everything themselves because they are not assigning budgets for this, right? So it is more like, ticking the boxes. So I would say I don't want to live in a country where I pay so much tax. See, I pay a lot of tax. In that money, I would have had a luxurious life. Why I'm giving to a government, or why I'm giving to a place where, or even why I'm paying a rent in this house where I have homophobic neighbors nearby, or why I'm working and giving my service to a company which is not letting my partner vaccinated, or any, in that case, why the hell I'll be here? So I know it becomes sensitive for young generation like me, that we don't want to face even 1% exclusion, and we don't encourage that also. And I know running away from the country is not a great idea. We should support the country we live in. But what this country has done a lot for us as well. I know the fight what has happened, right? It is because of the activists, the human rights, and the people coming together. It delayed because of the people I'm paying taxes to. I don't want to pay taxes here. Even at once, I'll not even ever think of paying taxes here.
One question I wanted to take. There's a question from Tanu Pandey, which is she's asking about अगर कोई पर्सन है जिसको कोई एडवाइस देना है और उसको पता करना है कि घर में कैसे बताना है, तो किसके साथ बात करना चाहिए या कैसे एडवाइस देना चाहिए. सो दिस इज फॉर एवरीवन. आई वुड लाइक टू सजेस्ट दैट कमिंग आउट इटसेल्फ इज अ प्रोसेस, because when I came out at the age of 17, as many of the panelists said, that there was like, to be very frank, तब तो smartphone का भी जमाना नहीं था. And then I grew up where we used to see the black and white TV channel and all. So coming out जो है वो खुद एक process है जिसमें कि हमें ये जानना बहुत ज़रूरी है कि who is understanding us in the family. ऐसा नहीं है कि रैंडमली आज मैंने कोई एक वीडियो देख लिया और मैं मोटिवेट हो गया और मैं जाके कल सुबह ही सोच लूँ कि यस, मुझे जाके अभी अपने पेरेंट्स को बता देना चाहिए दैट मैं गे हूँ. व्हाई आई एम सेइंग इट, बिकॉज अभी 2 दिन पहले ही एक कॉल आया मेरे पास गुड़गांव से. एक 20 साल का बच्चा जिसने अपने घर में बता दिया है कि वो गे है. इमीडिएटली पेरेंट्स ने उसको घर से बाहर निकाल दिया, एंड द होल नाइट ही वाज एट द मेट्रो स्टेशन, एंड मॉर्निंग वी वर फाइंडिंग आउट कि अभी उसको कहाँ पे रखना है. देन आई वाज फाइंडिंग शेल्टर फॉर दैट पर्सन. अभी फिलहाल के लिए उसको किसी फ्रेंड के यहाँ पे रखा हुआ है. देन I actually spoke to him about, I spoke to one organization here in Delhi, Mitra Trust. वहाँ पे जब हमने shelter के बारे में बात किया, then now we have very specific need, which is like transgenders के लिए वो shelter है. Even Abhina must be aware about it. But there is no shelter for the male people, because you know हमारी society में सबको लगता है कि male जो हैं उनको तो कभी कुछ होता ही नहीं है, एंड मेल पर्सन को तो रोने का भी इजाजत नहीं देता है हमारा सोसाइटी, यू नो. सो कमिंग आउट itself is a process. In that case, what I suggest to everybody, especially youngsters who come to me, कि पहले अपनी स्टडीज कंप्लीट करो. फर्स्ट यू नो दैट यू आर स्टेबल, दैट कि अगर घर से बाहर निकलने का सिचुएशन आता है, देन यू नो कि एक छोटा सा 7,000, 8,000, 10,000 तक का रूम लेके आप रह सकते हो, और साथ ही साथ एक जॉब है आपके सर्वाइवल के लिए. Because we also, as a organizations or as an individual, we have our capacity. Maybe 10 दिन, 15 दिन, एक महीना हम हेल्प कर पाएंगे, उसके बाद that person has to stable. तो कमिंग आउट के लिए बेस्ट ऑप्शन ये है कि फर्स्ट यू इनकरेज दोज पीपल अबाउट देयर स्टडीज एंड बी द स्टेबल. And also, if person wants counseling, then you can refer them to any of us, whoever is there in this panel, or the organizations like Tweet Foundation, Lakshya Foundation, Lakshya Trust, Humsafar Trust. So that there, if they are reaching out, they can get some support.
Adding on to that, if in case anyone is facing harassment because of their parents, there's always a group called Swikar Parents. And Swikar Parents have sensitized so many parents. Like there's a person I really love, Aruna Desai. She herself sensitizes parents to accept their queer child. And till now, they gave me a number of 200 families that they have sensitized so far. And I would recommend that if in case the situation is completely out of hand and the person is going through a torture, you can always connect Swikar group. They are available on Instagram, and you can also reach out to me. I can connect.
So भावना पाठक has a question. सर हम लोगों की सोच कैसे बदले, लोगों को आज भी नॉलेज नहीं है LGBTQI के बारे में. सो व्हाट आई थिंक कि ये LI का भी काम है ये सोच बदलना, क्योंकि जब फर्स्टली आई स्टार्टेड टू राइट ऑन दिस टॉपिक, सो आई हैव लॉस्ट मैनी फ्रेंड्स ड्यू टू दिस की. और स्कूल में भी कई बार दोस्त लोग सबका बुलाते थे, अलग अलग चीज़ें बुलाते थे. सो यू कैन बी इधर राइट और यू कैन इधर चूज फ्रेंडशिप. सो यू कैन, it's a path, you have to do that.
We can educate people, but हम उनकी सोच नहीं बदल सकते.
बिल्कुल सही. जब तक वो खुद नहीं चाहेंगे हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते. तो शुभम तिवारी इज आस्किंग, अगर मैं बोलूं कि LGBTQ कम्युनिटी के बारे में मुझे आज के इस प्रोग्राम से पहले पता नहीं था, तो इसमें कोई शौक होने की बात नहीं है हम सभी के लिए, बिकॉज वी हैव नेवर थॉट ऑन दीज थिंग्स इन आवर स्कूल. व्हाई देयर इज नो स्पेसिफिक चैप्टर ऑन द सेम education curriculum. This is for you, Gautam.
Yeah, I would like to say something on that. Very recently, we had a Madras High Court case on the 6th of June, where it was a case of a lesbian couple which was being harassed by the parents and the police, and the judge of the court, Justice Anand Venkatesh, he made a very progressive statement while giving the decision. He said it was his ignorance on the subject which was encouraging him or rather motivating him to be discriminatory or to violate somebody's basic human rights. So he accepted the fact that he was ignorant, and he made it a point, before giving the decision, he made it a point to go to mental health practitioners, meet psychiatrists, psychologists in Tamil Nadu. Also, he met a number of people from the LGBTQ community to understand the issues. And based on that, he made this decision, which is still a decision. It's not become an order as yet, but it's a very progressive decision which was made, where he has said that, first of all, conversion therapy should be banned for when it comes to sexual orientation. Secondly, he has said that our education system needs to include issues of the LGBTQI plus in its textbooks and curriculum. Because imagine if a judge of the court can say that he was ignorant, then imagine how many other people are ignorant on this subject. So we have to accept that fact that we are ignorant, and because it's not the people's fault, it's the education system's fault. There is no hardly any. Forget about issues on us. Even the basic sex education is not taught in so many schools, and colleges, and parents also refuse to talk about it. So it's unfortunate that in spite of having Kama Sutra in our country, we don't talk about the basic sex education. So where have we gone? Where we have gone. Instead of progressing, we have gone opposite of that. So this once this law, I mean, this becomes an order, I'm sure it's going to help change a lot of education systems. And I'm myself teaching in a lot of schools, colleges, universities, and I'm happy to state that students of today are interested in knowing issues on us. I mean, there is definitely a change which has happened. Like, for example, now all of you who are students, I mean, you all took the efforts of calling all of us, the panelists, and knowing about different issues, from different perspectives from all of us. That itself shows that there is interest. It's just that we need to take this opportunity, and that's why whenever I get invitations, I give first priority to students. Even if I'm busy, I will say no. I would like to be part of this panel discussion because my job is to educate. We have to educate the students and make them aware, because education institutions are not doing that. So that's one thing. Another thing I just wanted to share, it was a part of a question which was, I think, talked about why people are migrating out of the country and all. There was a very important survey which was done, and I am party to this survey. This was done by World Bank, because I was invited to US when the study was being done, and this World Bank study was done with respect to India, which the World Bank has said that the economic development of a country like India depends on how much the country is able to recognize the human rights of its citizens. So see, there is a direct link between economic development and the human rights. So what Ankita said and what Sridhar said is like, why there is brain drain, because we are not, our rights are not being recognized here. So why Ankita says she doesn't want to pay taxes here, because she is not recognized, she is discriminated, she is like, her human rights are violated, and that's the reason she wants to go away to it. And that is going to affect India is not some rich country that we have all, we are all economically developed. We are taking so many loans. We are taking loans from the World Bank. We have taken millions of loans. We need to pay those loans. So if the World Bank survey has to be implemented, then India definitely needs to recognize the human rights of its citizens. Otherwise, we will not be able to compete with the rest of the world in terms of economic development.
Also, I just want to add to Manav's point. Right now, I'm doing masters in social work from IGNOU, and I was very surprised because I don't have that subject in my masters, but other students who are doing masters in social work, they have that subject. In that subject, that curriculum is teaching to the students that homosexuality is still illegal, and 377 is still there, part of the country. And I was so shocked, and that got reviewed in February 2019 after the Supreme Court's judgment. So I was like, imagine how many curriculums we have where we are still teaching to the students that homosexuality is a disease, like if we talk about doctors curriculum. And imagine how many masters of social work students are going to be out there after 2 years, who are having the wrong knowledge about the 377. And forget about only the homosexuality issues. We are learning about so many laws issues and different things related to the across the world. But we now don't know what is right, what is wrong, and we are just reading it. We are going to give exams, and after passing out, we will be going on the field with that knowledge. So somehow I feel this is also responsibility of the college.
Yeah, no problem, sir. So there's one more question Mansi Mittal wants to ask. How many people within us attend workshop like this and still go and abuse others by the same name? The same people celebrate and show their support in the Pride Month but forget everything for the rest of the year. So this is probably an example of appropriation, how appropriation works and how the capitalists and industries are gaining the profit during Pride Month and rest of the year they are silent. So if anyone would like to answer.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of rainbow washing during Pride Month, but I'm happy actually that like there are more companies who are actually doing that much, you know. So I'm not. I know Ankita will disagree with me, but I would say that like I mean, the more the merrier. More people basically showing the support. I know it's just lip service. I know it's just tokenism right now, but I would say that like if they're doing that right now, if they're painting the logo rainbow, they'll be held accountable by their employees very soon. They cannot keep rainbow washing for more than 1 year or 2 years, right? Because their employees will definitely hold them accountable. So this year they might have just rainbow washed just for the fad of it, but I'm sure as they go ahead, definitely they'll be held accountable. They have to bring in policies. So change will happen. I know we need to all. I mean, we have had a lot of patience. Our generation had too much patience, but I think we were very laid back and had too much patience. Younger generation wants it really fast, and I agree with that. World is changing rapidly for sure, and there are more better opportunities elsewhere. But I just wish that people would stay here and basically fight for it. And I'm sure that the companies would come by. I mean, there are more and more. I mean, I know that like around 7 years ago, there were just 3 companies which had their diversity and inclusion policy in place. Now I know at least 30 companies, if not all, of course. At least I know 30 companies who have. There's this group called Pride Circle. They have a roster of companies who have signed up for their diversity and inclusion program. There are at least 30 companies who are implementing this diversity and inclusion policy. So I'm sure that like rainbow washing will stop and they'll come to implement better policies very soon. Just to mention about education, I really think that the roadblock is basically by the government and by the stakeholders. The youngsters are totally open. I mean, we do screening programs, film screening program at school level. You know, I have screened at this Delhi college called Tagore International College, and I was screening to something like 11-year-old children, and we took, of course, more sensitive films, but they got it so beautifully. They were with the film, they understood the context, they asked pertinent questions, but basically the teachers become a roadblock, or the governing agency of the schools become a roadblock, or the government which make these policies become roadblocks. I really think we need to remove these roadblocks so that like there's more, I would say, as somebody said, like there's not even sex education. Forget education about same-sex or transgender issues per se. We need to bring that in for sure. Yeah, it'll take time. I wish that things will be faster, and I know for sure that like I'm right now 59, and I'm seeing that like changes have happened in my lifetime. I'm happy. I thought Section 377 will never go in my lifetime, and I'm so happy in 2018 when the Section 377 went. I was like dancing away, and I just hope that like I've been living with my partner for the last 26 years. I have a same-sex partner for 26 years now, and we don't have any rights at all. We are not able to, if we cannot will each other. I mean, he didn't have any right over my property. He doesn't have any right over my body. If I fall ill tomorrow, he can't come to the hospital and sign for me because he's not a registered partner. And that is a problematic thing because I've been living with him for 26 years and he doesn't have a life. He doesn't have right over my body. That's really shameful. So we definitely, of course, marriage law is not the be all. That can wait. But as somebody mentioned, we need an anti-discriminatory law immediately enforced, where nobody should be discriminated based on their gender and sexuality and sexual orientation. It's supposed to be in the constitution, but it's not implemented. Laws needs to be changed, policies needs to be put into place so that anti-discriminatory law comes into place for sure. And anti-discrimination in all places, whether at school level, whether at college level or at workplace, or even courts and parliament, everywhere the anti-discriminatory law should come into place. That would be a good future for us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So this is our last question for the day. It's asked by Tushar Gupta. Sometimes if parents accept that our child is gay, but society didn't accept that a gay person can't stay in a society of normal people, and then they bully that child. How can we help the child? As an ally, I guess. As an ally, how can we help?
I think that
calling
question
normal and abnormal.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I said this question has been partly answered by, I think, Ankita, somebody who talked about the rainbow parents this week, where, the parents, I mean, I myself, in fact, now, since I do a lot of counseling, I am getting parents call me, and tell me that we want to accept our child, but the society around us is not allowing us to accept the child. So how do we go about it? So I've done the same thing. I've passed on the number of Runa Desai, who's ever ready and very one of the most cooperative mom I've ever seen in the part of this Swikar. She will go out of the way and like last pandemic I've helped so many mothers. Ankita, what this Aruna has helped so many mothers to change their mindsets, and now like those mothers have accepted. Recently, one guy who was in UK who wanted to live with his partner, and the mother, I mean, of course, Indian origin, she wasn't, and then Aruna and some others, they helped that mother, and now she's fully accepted, and though that boy has got actually married with his partner
Joyson.
in UK, So,
I know Joyson.
so yeah. So these mothers and fathers, and not just mothers, fathers, there are grandparents and uncles, aunts, and Swikar is doing a wonderful job. I think and it's reaching out to so many. Somebody told me just now that the survey was done where 200 odd parents have got so far sensitized. So because this is a challenge for parents also. See, the parents have also to be educated. They don't know the way out. It's they want to accept, but the people around them keep poking them. Arey, what are you doing? Your son's grown up. He's marriageable age. What are you all? Why aren't you doing anything for him? So then these answers can come from Swikar, because these parents have gone through that process. So they will be able to understand or make them understand in a better way.
Yeah, I just want to mention that the Swikar parent group basically is a beautiful group. It almost has 140 parents right now, both fathers and mothers, both, And what is beautiful about the group is basically they are from diverse background. They're upper class, middle class, lower class, all the parents are there. And also I would say that like they can speak any language. They have parents who speak in Hindi, Telugu, Marathi, Konkani, Urdu. So not just Aruna Desai, but there have been wonderful parents, Neelakshi Roy and Pradeep Devgikar, so many other parents who have been helping so many parents come to terms with them. And we have seen success at close quarters. I've seen a parent come to a meeting of Swikar. Basically, she had problem with her transgender daughter, who was a son before. She couldn't accept him as her now, So that's a big challenge. And when the Swikar parents spoke to them and she attended this meeting, and within, I would say, 5-6 months, she was so beautifully accepting of her transgender daughter. So there's power in, I would say that like a lot of people would be very hesitant to go to counselors. The counselor word is still a bad word in India. That should change, of course. Anybody should be able to go to a counselor and talk to them, but still counseling is a bad word. But parents become peer counselors. So peer counselor, a person from the same frame of mind who will counsel the other person. I can be a peer counselor to another gay man. Similarly, parents can become peer counselors for other parents. So Swikar is a set of peer counselors. They're trained a little bit, but they're not professional counselors. If they feel that they need to push the parent to another professional counselor, they'll suggest it. But pretty much most of the things can be handled at that level only. Yeah.
I have an addition to it. Like, I know that according to my experience, even my cousins were very, very homophobic, and I could not have the courage to talk to my relatives, because in India, if you talk to relatives, then of course your parents have to deal with the toxicity, not just you. So you as an individual, or you can sensitize your cousins so they can sensitize their mothers. So if you cannot directly sensitize your bua, mama, chacha, whoever you deal with, you can sensitize their kids, and their kids should have this open-ended discussion with their own family members. And as a youth, that is the best you can do. To be honest, if you feel that you want to do something, start sensitizing your own family member, even if there is someone gay or not, because this should be a dialogue, should be coming from your end, to have a discussion with your cousin group. I have been excluded by my own cousins of my same age, right? How can I expect my other relatives to accept me? And still they're ignorant towards the fact that I am like this. So there is still no discussion that we have on this, like how Ankita, how has been your life? Share something, because brothers and sisters are the one for your support, right? So it would be great, even though there are gay people in your family or not, have these discussions. So even if in case that they create the open space, a cousin of yours can come out, because we cannot assume someone's sexuality or gender. So that is best you can do from your end.
Thanks. And there is this one very important question in a chat box. Yakshi want to ask. I have come out as a biomantic asexual to
Biromantic,
my sibling.
biromantic, biromantic.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Biromantic asexual to my sibling and some of my cousins and friends, but my mom, I am still not fully ready to come out to her. Although I tell myself that I am not afraid to come out to others, but there is a thing that still holds me back to do so. How to cope with that?
So the best would be for you to basically, I would say, as I said, see a counselor. I think they would be able to, even if it's a peer counselor, speak to somebody like Ankita Mehra, who could be your same age, perhaps. I don't know what your age is, but basically speak to somebody of your own age. And I would say that if you're really having a lot of issues, I would say seek a counselor. They are very LGBTQ friendly counselors, because the way you're feeling right now, you seem to be more confident of yourself, but you're not able to come out to openly to some of the people around you. So I would say that, like, first of all, develop a set of friends around you whom you're comfortable with, whom you can share, and they can spread the word. But I would say that, like, talk to a counselor, get I would say emotional support to deal with how to kind of talk about. I mean, also, like, it's not very often that you can pinpoint and say I'm a biromantic asexual person, and you have to have the courage to do that. So that's a huge thing. I mean, really kudos to you. But basically, if you have already negotiated that curve, the next curve is to be more be open to other people. And I think I would say going to a counselor would be a good help. I don't know whether Ankita agrees with me or not. Or Gautam.
Okay.
No, you said it correctly. Even I was about to say that to the organizers, that if after this call, if any student wants to have any of ours number or email ID, please feel free to give them. Because what I have seen in several calls with the specifically with the students, that they are hesitant to ask questions and talk openly on the call. But once they have our email ID or the number, they reach out to us, because then they feel that they trust us more, you know.
Correct.
So you please give our email ID or maybe phone numbers.
Yeah, sure. So she added, plus I feel blessed that none of my sibling cousins and friends are homophobic. They accepted me with open arms. So that's good for her, I guess. So that's it from our side. Thank you, Avina. Thank you, Manvinder. Thank you, Ankita, Gautam, Sridhar, for such an amazing interaction and knowledgeable discussion. So if you want to
Thanks
give
to
us any
Enactus,
feedback,
actually, because this is first time in my history. I'm working for the LGBT rights for 13 years now, but this is for the first time you brought all my favorites on one platform, and I was so happy to see Sridhar sir after so long, Ankita, because Manav and Abhina to we see time to time, but these people are far from Delhi, so thank you so much.
Love the discussion. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate this. All right. Bye-bye. Take care. All of you. Stay happy. Stay safe. Be safe, mainly now in the pandemic situation. Be safe. Get your vaccination whenever it's due. Or if you don't want to, be still maintain safe distance primarily. Okay. Chalo. Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye.